Courtney, thank you so much for joining me today. I know that you are busy and I value your time. So I am very honored to have you here. And I know we share a lot of the same
Yes,
values. So why don't you introduce yourself and then we can get the conversation started from there.
sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Courtney Nitting. I am currently a soloist, a second soloist with Boston Ballet. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna be 28 in a couple weeks, and I'm really excited for my birthday. And
Mm.
I don't know. I've been on a very interesting journey when it comes to all things health and wellness and balance and stuff. And so I'm really excited to chat with you, Rachel, because I feel like it's something that is so like, I don't know, taboo sometimes to talk about,
Mm.
particularly in the ballet world. I'm
Yeah.
speaking generally for the dance world, but particularly in the ballet world. But it's something I really advocate for now, and I'm
Mhm.
really passionate about it. So I'm really excited to chat with you and be here. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And I'm very excited. So I host these conversations because I want to bring first of all, reduce the stigma of talking about all of our journeys when it comes to food, nutrition, our relationships with food, building balance as a dancer instead of hyper fixating on our technique. I mean, the conversations go on and on. And I love having conversations with someone as yourself who is truly very established in their professional years as a dancer,
Yeah.
because you can share so much that a lot of my younger dancers that I work with a ton of dancers at all range of the spectrum of their training and also of their careers. But I'd love to kind of first start with what or at what point in your training and or professional or both did you connect the dots between, I want to use the word health, but I also want you to realize like that, and we'll talk about this at the end, that I'm redefining what it means to be healthy, right?
Yeah.
So at what point did you connect the dots between how I'm eating or what I'm doing for my body from a wellness perspective
Mhm.
and how I'm showing up and performing as a dancer?
I I'm so happy to be here and chat about this because my younger self would be like, this isn't possible, because
Mm,
my truthful answer is probably 5 years ago,
mm,
probably already 4 years into my professional career is when, like you're saying, all of the dots kind of connected. I don't know if that's because of the maybe difficult journey that I had, the experiences that I had with higher up artistic staff that was like fogging all of that, the stress that I was under as a young child, that caused a lot of like intestinal issues as a kid.
mm,
Um, I was like always going to doctors and things. So it's been very, my journey has been very up and down for a variety of reasons. And I would say it's not until like the last 5 years that I really feel like, oh, this is what works. And this is what makes me happy and feel the best from head to toe, from inside and out,
mm,
um, in all of those aspects. And I will say, though, it's still constantly changing all the time. I'm still learning. And that's the interesting thing. Things that I did last year, even, are some things that I had to erase and be like, well, this isn't working anymore. We need something else. So I also think it's not just connecting the dots, but embracing that it's going to change as you keep
mm,
going. And that was something that did not resonate with me when I was younger immensely, because
mm.
we were, in the box of perfectionism and control and all those things, especially in your training. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
And
short answer.
and it's similar with nutrition and finding what works for us, because it's very often that a lot of dancers, just given the natural tendency that I'm what came first, the chicken or the egg in regards to like the perfectionist or thriving in dance, etc. Well, that's a whole nother conversation. But it's interesting because even with nutrition, I often see that dancers will think it's a check off a to-do list, like,
Right.
oh, I'm working towards fueling my body more adequately. What I'm doing right now feels really good. I've mastered this. I'm ready to move on. And then they're kind of hit down the road with whatever it might be, whether it's burnout,
Yep.
an injury, some other obstacle in their training that's like, oh, what I'm doing is no longer working. And we often see this, believe it or not, with like clean eating lifestyles that can quickly become very restrictive for a lot of dancers if they don't really, if they're kind of just going off Google and you know what I mean?
Oh,
like getting.
I have been through
Same.
all of the circles. You can name anything and everything, and I can almost 99.9% tell you that I have tried it. And I went through all that process. And I think that's why I'm such an advocate for it now, because I look back at my younger self and I'm like, wow, you weren't not just like fueling your body in like the most healthy way, but also that does so much damage to your mental as well. And like, I can't express enough how up here sometimes matters so much more than everything else, you know? And that applies to every decision that you make and every, you know, everything that you put in your body, but, and it comes from above as well, you know? So, yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And, you know, one thing that you said earlier that really resonates is that what works now isn't necessarily what might work for us next year or 6 months from now. And this is just, again, a topic that I really want dancers to understand is that, again, it's not a check off the to-do list because it's an evolving journey. So this refers to a dancer learning how to fuel their body adequately, but also learning how their body functions, like in the studio, right? That mind-body connection, body image plays a huge role in this too. And understanding for a dancer who's entering or who's well into their late 20s, moving into their 30s. I've gone through 2 pregnancies. I have 2 kids now. I mean, the constant evolving of our bodies changing and just recognizing that is going to happen can be really scary for a lot of dancers who, like you said, are so the desire for comfort, the desire for control is so prominent throughout our years of training that having to almost relearn to come to terms with change throughout life is so important. So can you share maybe it doesn't have to be a specific experience, but just in your professional life, what are some changes that you've had to learn from and really come to terms with in the recent years?
I feel like I don't know if anybody knows this about me. I don't know if you know this about me, but I made a huge career change last year. I was dancing with Kansas City Ballet for 5 years, and I decided I felt like I needed more. And I also wanted to be closer to my family. So I luckily landed this job here in Boston. And being in Kansas City, I went through definitely from being the younger dancer to finding my way as a professional, but also finding that healthier just viewpoint of myself. Actually, this is like my favorite story to share as a like starter, where there was a dancer in the company. Her name is Kelsey Hellybuck. Shout out to her because I love her for this. And I was having one of those days where I was just looking in the mirror and I was like, I'm not going to dance this part because of the way I look. And I was constantly saying that. I was like, it has nothing. And I had already been hired in the company for, I don't know, at least a year, if not more. I was doing great parts. Like everything was going fine. And she turned to me and she goes, you are a woman. And it is okay sometimes to look in the mirror and not like what you see, but you do not degrade yourself for that. And you just allow it to be, because you're going to have days where you look in the mirror and you just don't like what you see. But that doesn't mean that your body isn't healthy and capable and strong and beautiful for where it is, you know. And it's okay. It's okay sometimes to just be like, man, I don't like it today, but I'm not going to do this crazy thing in order to change it and go down that, you know, spiral down the mountain, you know. And Even her just using the word like, you are a woman,
Yeah.
that was like a really big change to me, because I was like, oh my God, I am not this 18-year-old, 16-year-old, 15-year-old child anymore training in a school. Like, I have an apartment. I am fully embracing everything that comes with being a professional and being, you know, an adult with a job. And that like kickstarted this whole kind of journey for me. And so being at Kansas City then for 5 years, I thought I had it all figured out. I was like, this is great. I came to Boston, and the workload that we do here is very intense. I went from doing, you know, 24 shows in Nutcracker, which is still a lot, to here we do 46 minimum.
Wow.
And every girl is almost in every act. So it is a huge increase. And, you know, I was doing what I had known, and that was just not working here. I fatigued out, like you're talking, I burned out. I was like, something's got to give. Something has to change, because what I'm doing, I don't feel good anymore.
Yeah.
Like I can't even physically perform at my best, because I just am not fueling the right way. And so last year, I actually kind of call it my like figuring out year. And I feel like I'm still figuring it out, because it's been a completely different change from what I thought I knew to something completely different. And even currently right now, we're in Swan Lake.
Yeah.
We're in a 17 show run of Swan Lake, which doesn't seem like it would be as much as Nutcracker. So I kind of prepared in my mind, you know, I'm going to fuel similarly. I tend to do really well with protein at the end of the day and really feed those muscles, and with really heavy carbs at night to make sure I have all that energy in the morning. And I just hit a point a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I had the opposite experience from when I was younger, which was like, you know, you need to look thinner and blah, blah, blah. And all those kinds of thoughts to, oh my God, I'm getting too thin. This is scary. And, I actually talked with a nutritionist again. And I was like, what am I missing? Because I'm doing all the things right. You know, I think I'm doing all the things right. And you just have to embrace the fact that it's going to constantly change, because what we do is so athletic. You know, and everybody's body is different. What I do does not work for what the dancer next to me does. And that's totally fine, you know, and you just have to kind of be able to, I think, read your body for what it is. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I've gotten from it, is that I used to get really angry at my body that it wasn't reacting or responding to the changes that I wanted to make, whether it be, you know, a diet change, or a cross training element, or you know, just a schedule. And I was like, but this is supposed to work. Why isn't it working? And once I kind of took that thought out of my mind and was like, actually, it's okay if it doesn't like this. Maybe it likes that. That really gave me just a freedom of, well, today I really just need to eat ice cream. Or today I really just need a good hearty sandwich. And it gave me so much more intuitive thinking of, what do I actually need to fuel myself, you know?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So many great points here, Courtney. First of all, I totally understand why that's your favorite story, because that is what a great moment where you were really kind of put into check. Right. And realizing, like, why am I holding on to these standards that are so unfair to my here and now dancing self? You know what I mean? Like you said, I'm not that 16-year-old. I'm not that 18-year-old. I'm not that 22-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, every year I get older, my body's needs are going to look very different. Every season that goes by, every performance. One thing that I'm loving that I'm hearing is that as you do get older, and as you become more experienced with learning how to fuel your body more adequately, you're building what I call the healthy dancer body of evidence, which is where you become more attuned to, instead of ridiculing how your body is responding, actually utilizing that as like, okay, well, what is it trying to tell me? What is this evidence for? Instead of feeling frustrated that my energy levels have dipped at 3 p.m. today, let me think back to how I ate yesterday. How much did I dance? And did I actually support myself the way I needed to support it? What can I do now? So I just love that, instead of that really shifting from the self-judgment to instead of utilizing that as information, as
Yeah.
evidence to say, okay, how can I intervene differently now? And that's what a beautiful shift that I get so excited when I'm working with dancers and I see that shift happen for them wherever they are in their
Mhm.
journey. Sometimes they're 15, sometimes it takes longer and they're in their 20s or in their 30s or whatever it might be. So I just loved hearing that beautiful shift that you experienced. A question for you, because you are obviously, like I said in the beginning of this chat, you're very busy and you've got, especially coming off of Nutcracker into Swan Lake now, how do you stay balanced where you don't feel like you're day in, day out, every hour at the studio or in the studio? Because we all know, and this one thing always comes out of these conversations, is that doing more hobbies, doing something different really helps us in the studio. So I'm curious to hear from you. What do you do to help you build that
It's
balance?
actually funny because this is something that I actually recently started
Hmm.
more, I think, I don't want to say routinely because that's definitely not, it's not a routine at all. But I will openly say I definitely experienced burnout
Yeah.
during my Nutcracker period. I was just dancing so much and it, mentally I was just drained. Also, I got really sick at the end of the run and I
Mm,
unfortunately had to pull out of the last couple of shows because my body just completely gave out. Like
yeah.
mentally and physically, I was just drained.
Yeah.
And so coming into the new year, um, I also like openly really advocate for mental health. I work with a
Yeah.
sports therapist all the time.
Amazing.
And I think it's important to have someone that's kind of not biased or has anything
Yeah.
to do with, our line of work that you can talk to and figure things out with. And we kind of came to the conclusion that as ballet dancers, and more specifically to myself, I can say I've always been on a routine, right? Like when you grow up in a school, it's you wake up. I trained at the School of American Ballet for 7 years. So I would get up, do my homework online, and then to the ballet studio, do my classes, and then go to the physical therapy room, do all those exercises, come home, eat dinner, do an Epsom salt bath, and repeat. And I did that literally for
Mm,
7 years straight
hmm.
until I became a professional dancer. And then the routine adjusted slightly where we wake up, have breakfast, go to rehearsal, then go to PT. And then, so it was kind of always the same thing. And that really didn't change until I got to a more intense schedule actually being here in Boston, where I
Mm,
was like, I am so not only bored, but my body just isn't thriving
mm,
anymore. And
mm.
so I have found that being really intuitive about small choices, it doesn't have to be these big things, but doing small things that give you a new sense of exploration or discovery is something that's kind of kept me in check, even during Swan Lake.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of cross training during our heavy performance seasons because I think we're already doing enough workload that sometimes that can be too much physically. Um, but that doesn't mean you can't grow your mind in new ways. I'm a really big fan of journaling all the time, or
Hmm.
I actually, like this morning on my day off, even though I'm tired, I was like, I have been in the theater for 2 weeks straight. I need to just go sit
Yeah.
outside for 5 minutes. Like something that small can really just make a difference. And I think it really goes back to kind of what you were saying, and what I really believe in now is just using that evidence of what not only your body needs, but what your mind needs
Mm.
as your tool,
Absolutely.
like actually I spoke to my mom about this as well. Something that is a really odd fact that I'm experiencing right now is I have this electrolyte that I normally love
Yeah.
all the time. And during Swan Lake, I was like, Mom, I'm still just like, I feel so, not just ready. I don't know, something is wrong. And I haven't drank coconut water in
Mm.
like, I don't even know how long. And I just got some coconut water. I was like, you know what? Let me try this and
Yeah.
see if this is better. In the middle of the run, something totally different. And all of a sudden, I perked back up. I was like, I feel myself. And my mom was like, are you drinking coconut butter? I haven't seen you drink that since you're like 17. I was like, I know, but
Yeah.
it's just what I need right now. And I think just allowing yourself to do what you need in those moments is more important than the actual thing itself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes
Yes.
sense, but I hope
It
it
makes
does.
it makes a ton of sense. It's flexibility, lifestyle flexibility in the work I do. I focus on food flexibility. So it makes a ton of sense. And again, it goes back to recognizing as structured as our lives become, especially in the ballet world, it is really important that sometimes we have to be very proactive about
Yeah,
being flexible with our day-to-day activities. Of course, as I know, a school like SAB or any pre-professional trainee program, of course that gets hard,
of
right?
course.
You do have a back-to-back schedule, but finding ways where you can build in flexibility, whether it's something as small as sitting outside for 5 minutes, it doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to cost any bit of money, and it's definitely something that can help to reground us.
Absolutely.
Um, Courtney, you have shared such incredible advice, and like I said, I value your time. I have one more question. It's an overarching question that I ask everybody on the show, and I really feel that you're going to leave us with some good insight
Okay.
here. So, can you redefine what it means to be the healthy dancer?
Oh my God. Um, that is such
It's a big one.
that's a big one. Yeah.
And
I think,
you've answered it a lot throughout our chat, don't get me wrong. But if you could really summarize it in like 2 sentences, I'd be curious to hear what you have to
I
say.
think my biggest thing that, like, if I could go back and tell my younger self this, because of what I know now, this is what I would say. And I think it encompasses not just, you know, how you're eating or how you're cross training or, um, where you're dancing or for who you're dancing for, or how many people are in the audience or whatever, or um, just I think the number one thing I think that really helped me and that I think encompasses what the healthy dancer is just love who you are.
Mm,
Like, I think the second I took out of my mind that the person at the front of the room is the number one thing, or this person giving me this advice is the best thing for me, or this diet because this dancer does it is exactly what I need and it's going to make me better, or um, you know, definitely like looking in the mirror and you're still not where you want to be and all those things. The second you let go of all that kind of stress and tension and just be like, where I'm at is
oh,
okay. I
oh
love
yeah.
who I am. Someone will love me. If you're looking for a job in the professional ballet world, someone will love you for exactly who you are. And that is
Mm-hmm.
enough. It doesn't need to be any more than that. Like, your routine doesn't have to be any more than that. If you love picking a flower every day outside and putting it in your vase in the morning, do that. If you love me, I have a sweet tooth. I will eat something sweet, whether it's ice cream, gummy bears, a spoonful of just Nutella, whatever, every single night. That makes me happy. I love that about me.
Mm-hmm.
And the second I came to the conclusion that all those things, those weird quirks or things that other people might make judgments on, is just, it's more important that I love who I am. Everything else kind of just falls into place.
Courtney.
I don't know.
If I could give you a standing ovation right now, I would, but then you wouldn't see my face. I mean, wow. So I just have to say, because it just you raised such an incredible topic that doesn't get spoken about enough. I did cover this on my blog though, and I want to reshare it because this is so beautiful. Just the topic of enoughness. We live in a culture where it is so ingrained into us, and I see it unfortunately even with the younger generations. My son is 8 and he's really in the gist of it now with elementary school and youth sports, and I'm becoming I'm being thrown into this world that I honestly never knew just growing up as a dancer. And it is so important to start recognizing that it's okay to just be as who we are also. You know what I mean? We get
Yeah.
so caught up, especially with social media, to wanting to always work on progress, to always focusing on, and don't get me wrong, progress is great, right?
Yes.
It's more of the achieving of perfection that we just need to come to terms with, like, you know what? Because if we're a perfectionist, and my son is, and myself, where I'm a recovering perfectionist, we get too hung up. We just get crazy and just constantly going, and we forget that, you know what, it's okay. It's okay where I'm at right now. And that's exactly what you're saying. And it's such a testament to all of the dancers who are going to listen to this chat to hear. Courtney, I cannot thank you enough for everything today. You have shared such beautiful insights. So thank you for joining me.
No, thank you for having me. I really hope that there are younger dancers out there that really take to your page. I have followed your page also for so long. By the way, I'm such a huge fan. I'm so excited to but you know, I think my journey, like, just even, or the joy of the ballet world would just be so much better, and you as a human will be able to just fully embrace yourself in everything that it encompasses, like it has for you to, you know, grab on and learn, and like you're saying, progress and grow and just blossom when you have, you know, this well-rounded, healthy dancer, you know, mindset. And I just think it's so important. And I wish I could have had that as a younger dancer, you know, because I mean, of course, you know, you wish, coulda, shoulda, woulda, all those things.
Yeah.
But, you know, there are so many tools now that you can access. And I'm so grateful to do this chat with you, and hopefully keep spreading that new, you know, wealth and generation of culture for the ballet world, because it's so important, and it really does matter, you know?
Yeah. And when you access that, enoughness, and that, and you feel confident, so much of this is about confidence too, then you will progress. Then you will, instead of just feeling like you're forcing yourself to do it, right? It's going to come to where you're not also risking burnout.
Right. Exactly.
Courtney, thank you so much. I feel like you and I can go back and forth forever, truly. This was wonderful.
I know.
Let's connect more, and I will talk to you soon.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.